On August 27, 1985, Major General Ibrahim Babangida becomes head of state. He overthrows Major General Muhammadu Buhari in a palace coup. In his inaugural speech, he criticizes Buhari's regime for being too rigid and he profiles a flexible approach.
I'm pleased to take this opportunity to declare once again, therefore, that this administration attaches the greatest importance to constructive and helpful criticisms as well as the freedom of the press, and to declare further that the administration also attaches the greatest importance of fundamental human rights.
He appoints Major General Sani Abacha as Chief of Army Staff as a reward for his crucial support during the coup. The following year, Babangida and his Armed Force Ruling Council begin plans for transition to civilian rule, setting October 1990 as the date for this return. He lifts the ban on political activities which had been in place since 1983 and legalizes the formation of two parties, the National Republican Convention (NRC) and the Social Democratic Party (SDP). He then urged all Nigerians to join either of the parties. In 1987, the National Electoral Commission (NEC) is established and tasked with the process of overseeing all electoral proceedings in the country. But failing to meet the stipulated deadline, the date for the return to civilian rule is changed from 1990 to 1993. Babangida then appoints Ernest Shonekan, a prominent corporate executive from the Southwest region, as head of Transitional Council and initiates the draft for the Constitution of the Third Republic. The gubernatorial and state legislative elections were conducted in 1991, and in 1992, the presidential primaries for the two parties were held, but the results were cancelled for electoral malpractice. Babangida then proceeded to ban all candidates who participated in the election from contesting again. One of them was Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, a former vice president of Nigeria. The next year, fresh primaries were conducted for both parties, and Chief MKO Abiola, a prominent multimillionaire from the southwest, emerged as presidential candidate for the SDP, beating prominent politicians like Babagana Kingibe and Atiku Abubakar in the process. Abiola would later take Babagana Kingibe as his running mate. Bashir Tofa, a businessman from the north, became the presidential candidate for the NRC. Unlike Chief MKO, who was widely known throughout the country, Tofa was relatively unknown except in his home state of Kano. But of the two, he was perceived to have closer ties with Babangida and the military. Abiola's political message was an optimistic future for Nigeria, with slogans such as "Farewell to poverty" and "At last, our ray of hope." One of his intentions was to manage the country's international debt while presenting himself as someone the international community can trust. On the 12th of June 1993, the NEC, led by Professor Humphrey Nwosu, organized one of the freest and the fairest elections in the country's history. It made use of the system of voting called Option A4, which allowed voters to vote in the open. And even though the turnout was low, no episode of serious violence was recorded. 2 days later, the first batch of the election result was announced. Abiola wins 19 of 30 states and the Federal Capital Territory. This included all the states in the southwest, 3 of the 7 states of the southeast, 5 of the 9 northern states including Kano, Tofa's home state, and 4 out of the 7 states in the middle belt. In the end, Abiola won by a 58% majority, 8.3 million to Tofa's 5.9 million, becoming the first Southerner to secure the national mandate freely and fairly. However, this euphoria did not last long. On the 24th of June 1993, General Ibrahim Babangida annulled the election, citing the issue of vote buying and national security concerns as reasons.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral malpractices virtually in all the states of the Federation.
The country is thrown into chaos and widespread protests break out. Over 100 pro-Abiola demonstrators will be killed. Babangida's military government then proceeded to terminate all activities of the NEC, shut down media houses, and issued decrees preventing court cases on the annulled elections. Former military rulers Olusegun Obasanjo and Muhammadu Buhari and 10 other former generals issued a joint statement demanding the removal of Babangida from power. And on the 26th of August 1993, bowing to pressures from his inner circle, General Ibrahim Babangida placed the country in the hands of an interim government led by Ernest Shonekan and resigned from office.
And it is with a deep sense of responsibility that once again I accept the challenge to serve as the head of the interim national government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
As interim president, Shonekan wanted to make Abiola his vice, but he refused because he had no belief in Babangida's interim government. The new government had to contend with a failing economy impaired with debt and rising inflation. During Shonekan's brief regime, Nigeria was ranked among the top 20 poorest countries in the world by the World Bank. To revive the economy, Shonekan took the unpopular decision of removing subsidies on petroleum products, raising the price of petrol by 700%. Shonekan also made plans for transition to civilian rule, setting February 1994 as the date for another election. But he will be toppled yet again by another military ruler, this time his defense minister, General Sani Abacha, having spent only 3 months in office. Although he was named the head of government, it wasn't clear whether he was in control of the armed forces. In November 1993, the decree establishing the interim government was ruled out because it was believed to have been signed by Babangida after his removal from office, thus making the interim government illegal.
Consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The interim national government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. Where there are no brigade commanders, the commissioners of police in the states are to take over. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments until administrators are appointed. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved.
The new military ruler, General Sani Abacha, was born in Kano